Okay, we are live now, sir.
About a 30-second delay, you said?
Correct.
I'd like to go ahead and entertain a motion to come out of executive session with no activity being taken.
So moved. Jerry, you're muted.
We had a motion by Mary Beth. Jerry, did you,
I second her motion.
that's second. Okay, we are out of executive session. Welcome, everybody, to our October Port Royal Council workshop. We appreciate you taking the time. We apologize for being late. We had an executive session tonight. We ran over about 30 minutes, but it was an important business that we needed to discuss. No action was taken in that, and we'll get started with our agenda for tonight's meeting. And the first item on the agenda, as I change documents here, is the council briefing, which is what I was looking for.
And did you get it? I just sent you the link.
All right, sorry, email. I don't normally have it up and running during a meeting.
That's all right.
Good. So Van, go ahead and let's do the council briefing.
Just real quickly, there's a few things. We'll start out with stormwater. I sent y'all the scope on the 11th Street issue, which we're still looking at. I did also send y'all the Michael Murphy tree evaluation, where you discussed the health of the trees, that we didn't necessarily need to remove any of the trees in the village, but that we could potentially look at some of the sidewalk shaving to address some of the maybe some of the drainage that we currently have going on, or some of the issues that we have. So we're going to take a look at that. There's a company that does circulate. We did it a couple of years ago where we did some shaving to basically eradicate some trip hazards. But if there's some opportunities that maybe it'll allay some of the drainage, I think we should probably look at. It's probably a less expensive remedy than some of the others that we're looking at. So that's something we'll consider as well.
What I read through there was something about there were a couple of trees next to one of the alleyways.
I think so. Let me pull it up real quick.
But overall, he thought that, and the way I had read it, and council, please jump in here. The way I read that is he thought that canopy was performing very well. There was no, Jerry, maybe you can help me with this. No, one tree was not affecting the other tree on the other side of the road. They weren't affecting.
Right. The impact was not, they weren't impacting each other in a negative way. They were, the canopies were filling in nicely. They look good.
Yeah, and we do from time to time have to trim away some of the branches that get near some people's roofs. Some people do it themselves, but if they can't, they certainly don't have an issue calling us and asking us to do it. So we'll get out there if it's something we can do. If not, we bring in a tree company to trim those trees.
The 8th Street fence line, I'm sorry if you.
All right. Okay. Next item, 8th Street fence line in Madrid Pond. I did get somebody out. One of the things that we encountered was going to be a difficulty, and we were looking at clearing out the foundations that were part of the townhouses. We own 4 of the 5, not all 5 of them. I did reach out to the 5th owner. He said if it's a reasonably priced, he was willing to do it. But we're having to evaluate what the costs are going to be to do that, because everything inside there really needs to be done by hand, because it's not just getting within the perimeter of the foundations. Obviously they're sectored, each one is individual, but they're also piers within those foundations. So it's not a matter of just breaching one wall and going in and running a piece of equipment. It's really going to have to be done by hand. So I suggested he just for now go ahead and let's move forward with the fence line issue, as well as the Madrid Pond issue, and clear what's at the end of 8th Street in the right of way now, which is adjacent to SK and the dance studio. So we get those cleared out. Now we do need to talk with Gray Ghost, because to make this much simpler, we really should take out the fence. It would make removal significantly easier. And some of the cost savings we can also realize is if they do stockpile some of that material and our guys can pick it up and take it out of here, that'll save us some money. As far as Madrid Pond goes, we had looked at maybe 2 aerators in there. We're going with 1. We're going to put enough line in there that we can move that aerator around. We did get rid of the wasp. We're hoping with the aerator, it will eliminate some of the smell issues that they are also having in there. But we also had a pretty significant amount of saltwater infiltration recently. So hopefully that's going to knock down some of that also. But we're hoping to, and I talked to Clay a couple of days ago, and he's revising that scope of work and price based upon the latest discussions about the foundation work. All right. The next issue we kind of touched on, so that we don't really need to discuss. I did include in your packets the landscape RFP. Please take a look at that. Provide me the input if you want to. Tony and I put that together, and we'll probably get that out when we can. CDBG, obviously later in the meeting, or next week, we'll discuss the formalization of your match for the streetscaping piece. I see Jessica's here. I don't know if she's going to offer any input, but obviously we were successful with the Royal Palms, and documents are here. I think I needed to get some signatures from the mayor and one other elected folks to make them official. As far as the timeline on the streetscaping, Jessica, I'm not sure when any determination will be made on that, but we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Usually around Thanksgiving.
Okay, so that would be
Around
good. We'll hopefully know something soon, so that's good. Moving on, shrimp facility, we have had an opportunity to look at the first set of renderings, 2 different drawings about a multi-use facility with Gray Ghost. We sent them back to the drawing board. I think we offered, and Linda, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we offered some constructive criticism. They're 2 different footprints, one about 1,000, 1,100 square feet, the other one about 1,900 square feet. Obviously, we're looking at a 3-story building to make it multi-use. And, as we talked about originally, we would have occupancy and ownership as a part of that building as we kind of move forward. Baynard Cove, y'all saw some comment regarding some work that was being done in that area. Linda went out, took a look at it. They are operating within the parameters that they are allowed to at this very moment. They have all of the approvals in place, and nothing they're doing at this point is illegal or inappropriate. Zach, Linda can just nod her head if she agrees with me, because I know she's muted right now.
Keep an eye on that one.
Absolutely. Redevelopment Commission, we're hoping to get some additional applications in for the Port Royal Pride commercial program. Friday is the deadline. We do have one submittal from Parent Woodworking, our newest business in town that's occupying the shed. We're excited about that. And they're also, they've approved a conceptual design for redoing the entryway signs. We met, Bernadette and I met with Spectrum on site to kind of refine and make sure that we knew exactly how we wanted to position these things, what the appropriate sizes would be, what the materials would be. He's going to come back with the final rendering. So we're pretty excited about that. And then he did have one suggestion. We'd always talked about removing the lady from behind the sign. There was some concern about height relative to how to do the flags. And, we'd always thought they'd be like that behind the sign or incorporated in the sign. And he suggested almost like a nautical array that you'd see like at the Beaufort Yacht and Sailing Club, where you do have the American flag at the top and then an array of flags off each trim. That simplifies it, knocks it down to one flagpole, makes it a much cleaner, simpler design. He's going to get a rendering to us for that. So we're pretty excited about that. So
I like that.
I like that.
yeah, I think that's a great idea. Bernadette and I looked at each other and went, wow, that's pretty smart. Traffic, we did get an initial estimate for the installation. I'm revisiting the manual that Tony provided to us. It gave us some cross sections and how those things are to be constructed. I think we can work from those documents with our contractor and maybe realize some cost savings to do that install. It was a little bit of sticker shock on some of the background stuff, but I think we'll get that fixed. As far as Old Shell, Tony and I went out and located it, but Jeff wants Tony on site to give him specific, doesn't trust me, specific locations as to where those stop lines can be to get that installed. And, I guess I need, we had talked about maybe an additional stop sign through. We stop at one of the Fort Frederick intersections. If y'all feel comfortable with that, I think it's something maybe we should do just to break it up even a little bit more, because that is a pretty long run all the way up up Old Shell to where we were talking about, which I believe was 16th Street. So,
I think if you and Chief believe that that's the way to go, I think that you've heard from this council that we want to deal with speeding and aggressive driving, and that
Mhm.
road is one of our highest. So if that's the way to do it, go ahead and move forward.
yeah. And it's something the chief is going to present to you. Y'all are aware of the highway grant that we received. So obviously, you know, aggressive driving is an issue that's something that we take very seriously, and we need to start working on a little bit more. And also, you know, I'm asked the chief to compile accident information relative to the left-hand movement out of the curb cut from Parker's, and forward that to the DOT for consideration, because we had another accident, somebody trying to make a left-hand movement onto Rebo, despite the fact that there's a signal very close by. You know, we've always thought that that was short-sighted, and I want them to consider it again. Okay. Tool study, I think we'll have them.
You skipped Cypress Wetland. I apologize. You
Oh
skipped.
yeah, my bad. You know, we met with Wood Brothers and Mr. Woods on site, walked it, talked about the prepositioning of the equipment, the specific areas that were going to be cleared so that we could stage that and use as a laydown yard. He has run into a little bit of a problem with some of the equipment. One of the larger pieces he was supposed to bring overturned in one of the wetlands he was working in. So recovering that vehicle and getting them back out, but they are still scheduled. Obviously, the first thing we got to do is start drawing that water down, which is going to take some time. So it's still there. It's just that, you know, like I told y'all previously, he had one crew he lost to COVID. He's back in, you know, I think they're back at full power, but you know, he was very apologetic, and since he is since they are one of two firms that can really do this work, we're willing to wait to get them on site.
Yeah.
And if you'll note, I think you've probably seen some of the links to videos that the Friends of Cypress Wetlands have created. I think they're fantastic. They're very educational. You know, we'll get those as out as much as we can via our social media accounts, and I advise all of you to go take a look at those when you can.
Yeah, I have. Ben, is there any way you can work with Sean and maybe we can highlight one of those videos at next week's council meeting?
Absolutely.
Show it. What do you think, council?
Sure.
Those are important links, and I think we should show those. Those are great videos, unbelievable information, especially the one that had to do with the construction and why you do the type of, so maybe that's the one we do next week. We do as the first one. Why are we cleaning the wetlands and why are we doing that? I think Mike did a great job with that. Got a thumbs up from the bottom left corner there, so I think we can make that work. So very good.
Right. And just the Friends group is really working on putting together the educational piece and how they're going to interface with the students who eventually be able to revisit or visit this amenity, which is pretty impressive. And they are also in the midst of doing a complete update on the signage throughout the pathway. So they're going to time all of that with the end of construction. Okay.
Excellent.
All right, tool study, that's the big traffic study. We will get them here in November to make that presentation as best they can via probably more than likely a virtual interface. Hopefully we'll get some public input or some public response. Maybe we can work with Sean to get it circulated back through our social media to kind of get some renewed interest in that study and some of the things that it's recommending. And if anything, it might provide some guidance to maybe some future capital improvements that we could plan or potentially fund. Because you all know, with the payment of the shed, we're basically debt free at the moment.
Yay.
Yeah. So, council tool study at the workshop, tool study at the council meeting. I think a workshop. But what's your thoughts?
Be more discussion at the workshop, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier to discuss. That's what I'm thinking, sir.
Yeah.
All right, and it Van, and maybe again, dragging that bottom left corner SK into this, maybe we can find a way to bring us back to council chambers so that the tool study can be up on our big monitors all the way around, and maybe nobody in the room other than Tool, and the rest then promote, we show it on Facebook. We can put up some partitions. It may be time to start moving back to council chambers. Maybe this is a good opportunity. Let's talk about that and see what the council thinks about and what everybody's opinion is.
Yes, sir.
Staff's got to be comfortable with it, but we got to make sure staff's comfortable with us being in there. Not saying open it to the public, but maybe council and staff, and can we build some partitions in a way that council can sit up at the dais and we can use all that great monitors and the TV and everything we put in that we haven't been able to use much since we've been,
We can do plexiglass in between.
yep.
I mean,
So,
that's what we do at my office.
something to think about, that's all.
They should be done with all the plexi and debates soon, so we can maybe borrow theirs. All right. Porter's Chapel building is complete. You know, we need to decide, we would, hope to really do a real celebration of this building. So I don't know if you guys want to wait a few months to really make sure we can have people in the space. It's for those who haven't been there, it's very attractive. One of the things that I think I mentioned to y'all before is, obviously getting Wi-Fi in the building and setting up some cameras. So, and I am still working with the National Park Service. I owe Scott with NPS an email right now to talk about access to the building where he can get his folks in the building with some desk and start using the space, knowing full well that, obviously we're going to dedicate it at a later date. And that may work out better because obviously Chip with USCB has delayed that coursework until the second semester anyways. And they were going to be pretty instrumental in helping us, what's the word with the displays and some of the marketing of the Porter's Chapel.
Yeah, I don't know if it would bring as much excitement doing a grand opening of a building virtually.
Yeah.
Let's look at the first of the year. Let's start off the new year with the building. Let's think about that January kind of time frame for grand opening. Give us plenty of time to make it happen. What do you think?
Sounds good. I don't think we should rush into it.
No, I don't either.
Let's do the right thing. We've got we've got the whole area at the skate park. If we have to, we can kind of close it, use it as a place we can, if we decide to set up some chairs and stuff. And let's think about that. Let's work on that.
I think that's a good idea.
And we know that there are some people that would really love to come down and see it and see if we can get the invites out early enough so we can get the proper people down here when we do it.
All right, Naval Hospital sidewalk and the National Park, both of those related to fence relocations. I think we made a little bit of progress. We did speak with some of our, federal legislative delegation on assisting us with making some inroads with the Department of Navy to see where what the status is for both of these. I think the mayor talked to the current CO of the Naval Hospital, who was aware of the fence relocation for the sidewalk. Still kind of getting his feet wet and in some discussions about how we will review the rear fence relocation, which I think is very preliminary, but still, in my opinion, pretty integral to utilizing the space down there right now. It's adjacent to what the county's doing with some of the improvements, which we hope to get some signage down there. I did circulate to y'all some of the drawings of those improvements, but hopefully we will get the Naval Hospital fence line sidewalk done sooner than later. I mean, we've been at this since 2016. I hate to sound like a broken record, but maybe we'll make some progress this go round.
Van, I did receive another email today. I have not shared it with all council. It came in late this afternoon. I'll make sure I get that out to you guys about the construction truck traffic on the road going to the county's job. Once again, they were just extremely surprised, didn't know what's going on, don't know why all the trucks coming by. We have really got to work on a meteor blitz on what's going on down there and what's happening. I've promised to meet some residents down there next week and see if we can't get permission to allow them walk and see what all this has been doing. There literally have been 18-wheel dump trucks parked in front of people's houses trying to get in there, and nobody kind of knew why. We didn't know why, as we all know now. That work had commenced. So anything we can do to kind of get some renderings out there of this and get it on our social media, get it on our website so people understand what's being built and that this is really a very low impact park that's being built there. And it's the construction traffic that's the issue. I don't think it's going to be as much of an issue when the park is actually open, but anything we can do to help those residents out and let them know what's happening.
Yeah, I took a look at the construction drawing today. And hopefully we'll put together just kind of some quick bullet points on what those things are that will be incorporated into this improvement. And then hopefully can circulate it. It's a pretty two-dimensional construction drawing, which is not going to create the excitement that this thing truly will create, but maybe the bullet points will do that. All right. Paris Island, everybody's aware of the article that came out a couple weeks ago. Mayor DeVito and I and some folks from Beaufort Chamber of Commerce and our legislative delegation attended the SC Military Task Force meeting. Was last Thursday, where all of the base commanders from across South Carolina, gave an update of what they were up to and things that the state of South Carolina could do to assist them. Obviously, discussion of the Paris Island was asked of the colonel in attendance, and he gave an answer. And I don't want, Mayor, I may defer to you on this one, but I think he understands that we're all very concerned, but there's I think there were stipulations in the National Defense Act that required this integration by 2025. So there's some time built into this. And I believe the colonel, wanted to, make sure that the words of the commandant were spoken correctly, and he didn't contradict them in any way. And he restated that position. And Mayor, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you've done a good job. I think that the biggest thing was he wanted to remind everybody that Paris Island has been training female Marines for many years. It is not uncommon. They have already incorporated. We know that. We've seen it locally in the newspaper that they've had co-ed platoons graduate. They are working towards that. And they're just heading down the path of how to completely meet the mandate that's set before them in 5 years. The issue becomes, how does the West Coast do the same thing? They have 8 years, so they have more time to do it on the West Coast than we had here on the East Coast. And part of that reason is because we've already had female Marine trained here on this end. Like everything that we should all do when it comes to something big like this, they're looking at every possible solution. And one of the solutions was what we all read in the paper that's got us very nervous. And we're going to make sure they realize that's the wrong solution. The right solution is to just keep focusing here on the base that's here. So I think that's it. He apologized for not being able to communicate with us as a town. Obviously came on board during COVID, very, very busy. A lot of issues going on in that way. Not allowed to have people, really allow people on base. But he promises, he's already contacted me outside through an email. He does plan on engaging us as a town. He understands how important it is for both of us to work together for that base in Port Royal. So it was a very good conversation with both him and Colonel Buck at the Naval Hospital. We had good conversations with both of them.
Just real quickly on the shrimp docks, still waiting to hear word about the marine debris removal grant that we submitted through DNR. Which would remove the 2 boats plus the one that we have concerns about that's up there now. We are moving some shrimp across the dock, so we are selling some shrimp, so we're pretty excited about that. But really nothing else to report at this time on the shrimp dock. Tag fee, while we were sitting here, I did get the reconciliation for the last 4 years of collections, as well as the expenditures per municipality. Without going into those too deeply, I will send those out and we can discuss them next week. You'll be surprised. And obviously this may impact, how we consider the implementation of our future tag fee, or how we may request the allocation contingent upon the number of vehicles in Port Royal and how those funds could be allocated to address state and county roads in Port Royal. So, local option sales tax. Go ahead.
Thank you for keep pushing on that. I know it took a while to get this. We've been asking for it for a while.
Correct. And yeah, Ashley was able to do that, so I appreciate it. Local option sales tax, that's something that we push back, obviously, with everything that was going on with COVID, and the managers just get together and talked about some timelines. Nothing specific at this point. Just wondering where it was on everybody's radar. So if and when the county decides to take it up again, obviously we want to be prepared and have a timeline in place to discuss moving that forward. Short-term rentals. We've had several of our licensed units recently show up, not knowing what they were supposed to pay because they had remitted payment via this agreement that the Department of Revenue has struck with, I guess, Airbnb and some of the others. I've briefed y'all a little bit on this in the past, where we were given basically URL, but not a specific address. You know, one of the providers basically said we only had 33 short-term rentals in Port Royal. We all know that's incorrect. I have been working with Scott Slatton with MASC, as well as Shannon Erickson, who is looking into this, has made some contacts with the Department of Revenue. City of Beaufort was able to strike somewhat of a deal to address their concerns. I would hope that we could come up with a remedy that helps all the municipalities in South Carolina that have short-term rentals to make sure that the units are accurately remitting the funds where they're supposed to be. Many of you know this, and Jolie loves to harp on this. You know, a lot of Port Royal has a Beaufort address because of the way the post office are set up. And so that is the concern of mine, that, you know, Airbnb and some of the other providers may not understand corporate boundaries, particularly the way annexation laws work in South Carolina, where we're very amoeba-like in some areas. So hopefully we'll get some resolution of that, and I would prefer that it be on a statewide basis. You know, if we can geocode for Ubers, we can geocode for short-term rentals. Linda, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the comp plan, so I will turn it over to you for a few minutes.
Yes, thank you. Wanted to let everyone know there is an upcoming virtual meeting with our consultants. They are going to conduct this webinar type meeting with the community. This is going to be held on October 13th, so next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We're pushing the message out. It's on the town's website. It's on the Facebook page. And inside the announcement, there is a hot link for anyone who wants to participate. We're asking that you register in advance. So that'll give you reminders and give you the invitation in. It is going to be interactive, so we will receive the standard kind of presentation that we would anticipate, where we learn what a comprehensive plan is, what are the direct elements that have to be there, and then launch into the areas of concern throughout the town that our technical advisory committee has helped us identify. The consultant has been working since March, whenever it became apparent that this may be the path forward for all of their contracts, actually, with COVID. So they have been working on software and a protocol that will be take the participant through the webinar and then into a live survey, back out into the webinar, back into the next part of the survey. That will be live. So at the end of it, they're going to be able to bring up some real numbers in real time, just as if you were sitting in a charrette in the elementary media center or someplace, elementary school media center, as we've done over the years, you know. So having said that, I do want to assure everyone that if the time and date doesn't mesh for you, it will be open for a while. You will be able to tune in and watch the webinar. You will be able to participate in the survey for a few weeks to come. Once we get finished with this phase of it, of course, back to writing the comprehensive plan, composing, just for a reminder, the way comprehensive plans work, they are adopted by planning commissions. So once we have a document, we will take it to the planning commission for adoption. And then the final step will be to come to council for their approval also. So first and second reading with council. All of that upcoming. We're hopeful that we may be seeing this by December, start through the approval process, definitely by the first of the year. So that's what I have. Look for those announcements. Oh, one thing I was hoping is that when you see the announcement, if you could link to it, I think you all have robust email address books, contact lists. So let's, push it out as much as we possibly can. The consultants are very excited. They've already done the one with Beaufort County, and that was successful. Like I said, they put a lot of time and effort and money into creating this interaction. I've done a dry run with it. I think we're going to be pleased with the results.
Will there be a way for them in that time frame that it's open? Will there be a way for them to tell us how many people have done the survey so we can keep pushing and reminding, make sure we're getting a good number, you know?
Yes, we can do that. Right now, as of yesterday, I believe there were 39 participants signed up. So if you think about a classroom or a gathering space with 39 people in it, that's a good showing. I'm sure this is going to surpass that because we're so early in the process. So yes, we will keep everyone apprised of how many registrants we have.
Lots of shares, lots of likes. That's what we need on those
Yes.
registration things on our pages. Very good.
Right.
And real quickly, one other thing Brooke wanted me to bring up is that your November council meeting is scheduled for November 11th, which is Veterans Day. So I need to know if you would like to reschedule.
Go keep it the way it is.
I heard, sorry,
don't-
Garrett, is that you?
I don't see any reason why we should change it.
That's fine with me. Whatever y'all decide is fine with me. I'm available.
I'm available. I would not be available if we tried to move it 1 week. I've already scheduled out of town on the 18th, but
Unless we just did a meeting on the 4th, a workshop, and went right into council on the 4th.
We're still virtual, so I don't see any. I don't see the.
we've talked about bringing the tool study back in November. Let's make sure we're not, we talked about the tool study. We certainly don't want to do the tool study on
Right.
veterans. So if we do the tool
Correct.
study, we need to do that on the workshop on the 4th.
Okay. Well, then I'm fine with it being the 4th and the 11th. I don't have an issue with it, but
Neither do I.
I'll do what's good for the good of the group.
And yeah, so
It's a very important day. I get that, and we all agree to that.
it's very-
Whatever the group wants to do.
And really, let's, Van, let's look closely at what the agenda is and let's make it, if we have business we have to do, let's do it. If there's other reasons why we can say everybody gets the night off, then maybe that's something we need to do is what we can look at as well. But let's look at that. We certainly don't want to do the tool study on that night. So now that kind of made that decision for workshop as well.
Correct.
Unless we want to do a special meeting on the tool study somewhere else. We've also got another very busy day that month.
Okay. Well, y'all give that some thought and let me know. But that's all I've got in my briefing, but obviously I'll answer any questions you guys have.
Did you say Chief had something he wanted to add? There's nothing specific on the agenda to Beach. I thought I heard you earlier say you had something he wanted to add. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure, but we do have Chief Berthoff here, and if y'all got any questions of him, or if he's got anything he'd like to say, he's pretty stoic down there in the corner. He's not really saying much.
There he is. Appropriate background, by the way. Certainly one of the things, Chief, both chiefs, I want to thank you both for the diligent work you've been doing recently on the accidents been happening in our Reboat Road, McTier Bridge corridor. Very dangerous places for our first responders to work both in those areas. And over the last week, I think over the last 2 weeks, we have 4 now major accidents in those areas between the one at Parker's, the McTier Bridge. We just please keep those people safe on those first responders, but you guys have been doing a great job on all of that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
And I've seen heightened police cars around the Tier Bridge as of late. I've seen a lot more police in that area and just all over Port Royal. I've noticed it more. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Council. From the public safety perspective, the biggest thing we can ask that will hopefully avoid an accident is for drivers to show some patience. But moreover, once we do experience an accident on the roadway, please be patient with our responders out there, whether they're working on Repo Road by Parkers, the Bell Bridge, the McTier Bridge, or any part of the town. They are at risk out there in the roadway. And the only thing that will keep everybody safe in that instance is patience of our drivers.
Very good. Well said.
I need to add something to that, Chief.
Please go right ahead.
If these drivers, they think it's going to be forever, but I know 10 minutes seems like it's an hour, but as long as we keep the traffic moving, I promise you within the time frame, we can get the cars through there if they just have patience. And I'll echo Chief Reese on that.
Van, I remember what you said, that Chief was going to update us on the grant that we got, the traffic grant. That's what you said earlier, that Chief would update us on later. Sorry, got you now, Chief Beach.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
And
Go ahead, Chief.
I promise you, we will have a full presentation
Yeah.
next week if you will allow that. We need about 5 or 10 minutes of your time.
You can have as much time as you want, right, Council?
Thanks.
Very good.
Mayor, I will update council. The first of 2 fire trucks that you approved as a budget process last year is set to be ordered any day. The final financing has been completed and closing documents are inbound. So we'll be looking forward to seeing that about this time next year. It's taking 10 months to 12 months to get them built. So just the firefighters are be very appreciative of that, and they'll look very good in the community. So thanks again for that support. Secondly, we're just about to kick off our advanced EMT training that we were awarded through the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program. That's about a $225,000 grant that will train 24 firefighters to the advanced EMT level. And in conjunction with that, I'll give you guys the first news on this. We received a grant from Firehouse Subs for a piece of equipment to support that EMT certification level. The tune of $38,000, which is a no match grant. So we're very appreciative of that. That will be announced on Tuesday at the city council meeting that will be accepting that grant as well.
Very good. Excellent.
Congratulations.
Chief Bertov, could you think about around the first of the year, just after the meeting, giving us a 6-month on the new impact fees, what it's generated, where we are? I'd love to kind of see, we did it. Let's explain to what we've collected and where that money is being used. Let's let the citizens know what we're doing with that money. So I'd love to get a kind of a first 6 months update on what's happening with that.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Just a reminder, I think Linda and her counterpart, David Prichard, in the city are prepared to start collecting that in January. That doesn't go into effect till January 1st. So we'll be tracking that very closely and we will give you updates. But I was in Linda's office last week and I'm in David's regularly. I think both offices are very, very busy. And so I would expect to see collections starting to come in January.
Did you use that in any way to finance the trucks to show that we were going to be able to put through the pay?
Right. So a vehicle purchase of this magnitude would be eligible for impact fee revenue to be expended in that fashion. But like I said, we are not collecting it yet. So it doesn't go into effect to be collected till January 1st. So it is forecasted on the second purchase that some of those funds that will start to be collected to be applied towards that one.
Okay. So we'll do that. We'll move that briefing later on in the year and let's get 6 months of data and we'll go from there. All right. Where are we on the agenda? Let me get this back up here. Anything else? Any questions for Van on the council briefing? Kevin, did you have something there?
I've got one, just something, a discussion item. I think we need to talk about, we had an email recently about opening of parks, small events, in particular Live Oak Parks, capping events at a certain number. Can we have a discussion about that now?
We can discuss anything we want. That's the next item on our agenda, parks within the
Okay.
town. I see Mary Beth dropped off. I don't know when that happened.
Her computer died, her laptop just died. So
Okay.
she is with us, she's on Facebook Live,
Okay.
but the laptop did die.
Thank you for letting us know, Jared. Just want to make sure everything was okay. So the next item on the agenda, exactly within the parks within the town, and you framed that discussion very well. Go ahead, start with that. Tell us your thoughts. I noticed that the Live Oaks Park was being used this past weekend for a Boy Scout event, Boy Scout thing.
Okay, I just want to have a discussion with council and with staff as far as, where do we feel like we are as far as opening the parks, Live Oak Park in particular to small events and attendance and adhering to social distancing, et cetera. I've gotten word from many people asking me about that, and I'm sure others have as well. So what's our plan on that, and what direction are we moving on that?
And just real quickly, I asked for y'all to discuss it also because we were starting to get some requests to use some of the park facilities for events. Obviously, Live Oak was being the main one. I think it is an outdoor park, but I do still have concerns about making sure that people use appropriate social distancing. That we maybe cap the size of the events. But you all know as we get into oyster season, there's going to be some additional pressure there. And, obviously, we're looking at numbers and how things are trending. So, I've got to figure out what council's level of comfort is as we think about those things.
Well, there's still currently, if I'm not, I don't remember the governor lifting the 250 person limit. That's still out there. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Right.
That's by state. There's nothing we can do, and we can obviously make it stricter than that. I believe there was some CDC guidelines on outdoor events. So do we grab those type of guidelines and
Sure.
add them to the application process and say you have to adhere by these? So that we're telling who's ever asking for the park, kind of giving them the rules of on how they need to do that. What's your thoughts, Darryl?
I agree also, but I think we should, as long as they adhere to the guidelines, the CDC guidelines in relations to social distancing. However, those that breach that or in violation, I think in their contract when they initially signed it us a request to use it, we should have some type of penalty for any violations.
Like I said, clearly it was being used this weekend. Was not a lot of people, probably 50, but there was a look. It seemed to me like it was a Boy Scout event that was going on there this weekend.
I mean, at this time with the way that the numbers in Beaufort County are moving, I mean, I'm comfortable with opening up the parks to some, limited size gatherings. I mean, I kind of want to encourage people to go outside, but safely and responsibly. I mean, so.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think, we never officially closed them by any type of a vote. We were just following the governor's guidelines and mandates. So it's really, when he increased it to 250, Van, it's your comfort level, staff's comfort level on how to administer it. I think for our protection, we need to have a guideline sheet that we hand to them, reminding them about the social distancing and what's required in that aspect. And, from that aspect, I think just so that we are covering ourselves to make sure that they understand they have to abide by that.
I gotcha. Yeah, I was just looking at the Accelerate SC guidelines, which I'll recirculate to y'all.
Great.
Okay.
Does that give you the information you needed to move forward?
I think so. And then something that was brought up to me in a private message just now is trick or treating. That's not something we regulate. It's not something that we did have the trick or treat event, trunk or treat event on Paris Avenue, but we don't. People call me all the time. When are you holding trick or treat? And I'm like, October 31st. And this is the previous years. Obviously, there's an added dimension to this. Wow, what do you do? Everybody's wearing a mask.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not comfortable with the police going around giving citations to kids trick-or-treating. If that's what's being proposed.
How do you enforce that also? If you have a couple of kids, they're not violating anything. So how do you enforce that?
There are a few states that the governors have said trick-or-treating is not happening, but we're not. We are not there. It is not here.
Did he state that?
Not our governor, not our
Oh,
governor.
okay.
Not
Oh,
South
okay, that's what I'm saying.
Carolina, not
That's
South
my point.
Carolina.
Exactly. If he's not regulated or stated that, then of course, how can we really enforce that?
There were some very ingenious ways of delivering candy I've been starting to see on Facebook for people who want to give out candy for Halloween. I've seen some very ingenious devices, homemade devices, a PVC pipe from the front door that you just slide it down and it drops into the kid's basket 6 feet away. It's a funnel, drops the candy and it goes in there. So people are thinking about ways to do this in a way that's safely.
Absolutely. And I feel like.
I'm not not opening my doors, but still, I'm just saying, how do you stop people? But I'm not opening my doors.
Yeah. And I feel like, children, their parents are in charge of those children. And if they want to let their children go trick or treating, then I don't see how we stop that.
Not sure that we could do trunk or treat. That was a very crowded event. I don't know how we could do social distancing on that. That would be the concern. If that comes forward, I don't think that we could do that. That as much as I'd love to say that, but how do we control that large group that shows up for that event? That was a massive event last year.
And Reese, I think you sent me a note, but I didn't read it quick enough. What's the city? Are they contemplating? I think you mentioned drive-by events or encouraging.
Yes, sir. So, the city usually has a pre-Halloween event downtown where the same situation occurs with your trunk or treat. It's a lot of folks. So they are not going to host that. And they are going to have actually on the day of Halloween, I think 3 or 4 locations set up where staff and volunteers will be handing out goodie bags on a drive-by basis. So it won't be walk up, and they're not places where it's the Washington Street Park, Southside Park, Pigeon Point Park, and then the waterfront marina parking lot. So you have to drive through in order to participate.
And the city is, y'all are providing the volunteers, it's staff and.
We're reaching out to organizations, but yes, staff is involved as well.
Okay.
But they're not saying people can't go door to door.
No, it's just like Van said, the city doesn't regulate that.
Right.
Or host it.
Right. Exactly. Okay. All right.
Just thought we should talk about it just in case y'all get asked the question.
Yep.
Well, that's all I've got. I guess we move on to the regular.
Council, we've got the council workshop, the council meeting for next week. We got the agenda in the packet. Please review any additions, deletions, anything. Please get with the staff. Again, remind everybody that we're doing the face masks on a monthly basis, so it will be on the agenda.
Right.
Next week. I believe what I've read, Chief Bertov, where is the city right now on theirs? When did they update theirs?
On the comprehensive plan? Or
No, on the face masks. Face masks.
Correct. They'll be taking that up on the 13th, and they are looking to extend it. So the current date, I believe, is in 2 weeks, but I'm not quote on that. I know it's coming up on the 13th for discussion to be extended again.
Hilton had just extended theirs till December. Bluffton is the end of November, and Beaufort County is somewhere in November, in mid-November. Kevin.
I will say, Joe and Van, were y'all able in the call with Russell on the hospital to kind of ask him, as I brought up at the last council meeting, what the end game looks like, what success looks like? Because, if you look at Beaufort County's numbers, we are definitely in a 2-week down period of numbers, especially from our peak back in June and July. This week, so far, I haven't seen the numbers for Beaufort County on Wednesday, but earlier this week, we're in single digits of 7 cases a day, 9 cases a day, 11 cases a day. So is there any guidance on what they're looking to see? I know last time you brought up the infection rate, which I saw was 9% the other day. So that's down below 10, might be up today. I don't know, but haven't been able to see the numbers yet. So just kind of, like I said, brought it up, just what does the end look like? Because, you got to define success if you're going to reach it,
Yeah, we did ask Russell specifically, and first of all, there wasn't a call on Monday. He had to cancel it. There was a briefing sent out that all of council received. They sent it in a briefing form. And Russell was very much, we got to get to the end of the year. He believed that the shopping season, the holiday seasons, they still have that fear of that, of it all coming back. The infection rate is still a very big concern to them. They need to believe it needs to be way down in the single digits. We're talking less than 5 infection rate. And we're not there. We're bouncing back and forth between single digits and double digits right now. We've actually come out of the 18, but we're starting to bounce back and forth on a day-to-day basis. So the end game is really getting it down below 5, I think, is in that infection rate. That's the Van, you were on that call, I believe, with me. That's the way he was thinking about it. The hospital is doing very well. The treatment processes are getting better and better, and that's the key. But they're very concerned about the holiday season.
Well, and another concern, things are slowly beginning to open up more and more. Beaufort County school students went back just this week. And it's a hybrid schedule, Monday, Tuesday. My girls go Monday,
Friday.
Tuesday, and they're virtual Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then there's another group that goes Thursday, Friday, and there's some cleaning going on in there. So I'm curious to see that. I know Beaufort High School had a football game last Friday night. A lot of colleges are having football games, and churches are starting to open back up. So I'd be curious to see where we stand after a few weeks of getting back to some normality there.
Yeah, the governor just lifted the restaurant capacity bans.
Right.
So, but like I said, I always want us to be safe and responsible, but just not. You can move the goalpost to a place where you can never reach it if you just keep moving it. So I just want to make sure we're kind of avoiding that.
Councilman,
Agreed.
if I may, one thing that the hospital has unequivocally told us on each call that we have had is that they attribute it to where we are today to masking.
Yeah.
And so I think I just want to support the mayor's position in saying that that is the reason we are here today. And while I have empathy for everybody who wants to see this go away, it's not going to go away till it's gone.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
If you look at the numbers and if you look at the long-term graphs, and I have not sent you my long-term graphic anymore because DHEC announced that they were missing a whole bunch of data, and it all of a sudden came in all the way back from March. So my graph is completely wrong now. So I stopped it. I just I'm done. I wasn't going to go back and try to correct it. So I just stopped it, and I'm looking at the DHEC graphs myself. You look at when we all started putting mask ordinance in places, and that you can see that curve really starting to drop and stay down. And you got to believe it's supporting it. We all want it to end. It will end at some point in time. Kevin,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for coming up again.
Real quick about masks. I just got this. Who made these?
I got mine too.
My wife,
Your wife made these? These
my
are
wife made them. Everybody, all of council and a good majority of staff in the building has a Port Royal mask.
Yes.
So it's, I wore it at the State House briefing from the military, and so did Van. Everybody knew it was from Port Royal.
That's good.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
He's probably
Well
watching. All right, next item, we had the mask ordinance. We've got to do the
Electronic meeting.
emergency ordinance so that we keep some of these electronic meetings going. Remember, that's not just us. It's also our boards, our commissions, our ability to work in other ways. So we have to watch that. We have to keep that going. If we choose to start meeting, ourselves in the room and publicizing it just through Facebook, we still need this in place to do that. Remember, this emergency ordinance has as much to do with our ability to conduct business and our ability to ask for money, CARES Act money and other things, as it does the emergency itself being here. We've got a couple of first readings on some annexations.
Do you want Brooke to put those maps up, or?
Yeah, if she can, does everybody want to see those? We've got,
Yes.
Yes, that's fine.
we've got a
Give
34
it
acre.
1 second. All right.
Very good.
And just real quickly, as I mentioned in the agenda with explanations, this has been in front of the Metro Planning Commission. They did recommend both the annexation and the designation of zoning. I believe that request was for T3 neighborhood. If y'all need an explanation of what can be done in that classification, obviously Linda's on the meeting with us and she can go through that. But you can see obviously anything in color is contiguous to the property in question. So contiguity is not a question. And I believe the zoning they requested does comply with the future land use map.
Very good. Anybody have any questions about? That's items A and B, both.
How many homes are they planning to put on it?
I'm not sure
Okay.
until we five. I don't know, probably a few more than 5.
Isn't
Depending
Clydesdale
on-
Circle across from picket fences?
Further up, across from Mink Point, Forest Fields, back in there, behind the,
Okay, okay.
yeah, I'm trying to think, there's a gas station on the corner, there's the automotive repair shop, you go
Oh,
up
yeah,
that, back
right,
up in there.
Alameda Drive, okay, near. by
Yeah,
Alameda.
yeah, that's where that is. So that's right, that's this entrance, right? That's that one entrance on the lower side.
Got it.
I mean, do we have a round, if you had to make a educated guess?
Linda, what is the approximate? I hate to refer back to, there used to be density tables kind of associated with mixed use zoning designations, but since we transitioned to the new classifications, you're probably, and Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, we're probably looking at something that's maybe in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 units per acre. What's interesting about this parcel is you can see that it's somewhat amorphous. So it's not like one single large piece. So infrastructure and how it would be conceived or installed may be somewhat of a challenge. Typical of any sort of development, 30% of the footprint is taken up with the necessary infrastructure. So once you back those things out, Linda, do you have an approximation or any idea?
No, I don't have an approximation. We haven't been approached, nor has have any of the owners talked about what their intended use is yet. One would kind of expect that it's going to be single family residential development, might be some duplexes, which are both allowed. With a 5,500 square foot lot minimum, as Van said, you back out 10 acres for a third of the property for infrastructure. We'd be looking probably at something on the magnitude of 3 or 4 units per acre. Yes.
But we don't have any development plans yet. Right now, it's just an annexation.
That is correct.
And the owners of the property are asking for the annexation?
Yes, it's by petition from the owners. Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Is there any way that they could be at council meeting next weekend to ask them questions of them, or?
Yeah, we could definitely
Yes.
ask them.
Okay.
Van, can you explain item C for next week? The ordinance, rescinding ordinance?
Hold on 1 second. Let me pull that back up. And you're talking about the, we were revisiting the fees associated with freedom of information requests and other fees that we addressed. Obviously, it's something to come up. Obviously, there have been changes to the freedom of information law at the state level that somewhat dictate the fees that we can charge and the fees that the police department can ask for incident reports and the requirements, having 14 days of records of incident reports on file. And when going through the 2015 ordinance, we discovered that for whatever reason, between first and second reading, I believe it was sections 13 and 14 had been left out of the ordinance. When we looked at the original documents that were circulated for review by Linda and myself, they included those sections, but for whatever reason, they were deleted. So we've added those back in. We viewed it as a scrivener's error. However, we wanted to make sure it was clean and done through an ordinance. And I want to pull it back up. There was some question, and Brooke and I have been talking about the question you had relative to, I believe, the custodian of the records. And we just wanted to make sure we address that. And I'm looking for that specific section. I know Brooke is on here. And maybe she might be able to point it out, but I know it's something that we've been talking about. Give me one sec. I just pulled it up. Where is it? Here we go. But I know that was something you were concerned about. We wanted to make sure we clean that language up.
Very good.
Yeah. And yeah, you can see where we added the FOI schedule, the other fees, and the parks and permits. And a lot of the parks and permits at the time, we were contemplating revisiting the fee structures. And for maybe that's one of the reasons why she just did not include them in, because she knew they were being reviewed by that committee at this particular time.
And they had some specific recommendations on some fees, and
but we never got an approval. I know that council had some concern about the amounts associated with, I think, with some of the fees, and there was never any real clear guidance on what those fees should be for some of those parks. So it could be that we give first reading to this, then ask them to revisit the fees and maybe clean that up a little bit.
very good. Council, let's think about that after when we look at this for first reading next week, if we want to revisit the park fees between first and second reading.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a good way to look at that. Anything else on the agenda we need explanation about? Hearing none, we'll move on. Last item on the agenda for tonight is important dates. We've got our council meeting of next week on the 14th is the only thing. Any council have anything they want to add on important dates that you're aware of
No, sir. I don't have anything.
between now and next week?
I don't have anything.
Very good. Anybody have anything that want to add before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
It's a workshop. We don't need a motion.
There you go.
You're right. Thank you, Darrell. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for the time, and we'll see everybody later on.
Thank
All right,
you.
be safe.
Good night.
Everybody, good night.
Be safe.
Night.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Hi, Sean.
Good night, sir.